No, President Trump, I love being around him. He is the nicest. He's a gentleman. He's so nice to people, and he was exactly that way. He's just a wonderful human being to be around. And, you know, I am a proud American. I love this country.
He hurls the javelin for 862. He's done it. Bruce Jenner set a new world decathlon record.
I spent a good part of my life getting ready for that day. I worked out a lot, ate a lot of Wheaties.
I am the child of a World War II veteran. I grew up a patriot. I was the first person to put up a flag at the finish line, the good old US of A. Why? Because I was so proud of my country. And I have to say today, and watching all this come down, this is the first time I've ever been ashamed of my country. I mean, we look at elections in Venezuela and other places in the world, these third world countries.
Shithole countries.
And we are turning into that person. We are turning into that country.
S-holes.
And that's a shame, because this indictment is yet another sham. I just hope people are watching, because we cannot let them prevail. If we do, we're done as a country. We are done as a country. We have weaponized the judicial system in the United States. I think right now, I was listening today, and this is how many indictments we've had, but as far as the cases, it's like 117 cases again. Yep. It is ridiculous. No other president, nobody else in history. And these things happened 2.5 years ago. Why are they bringing them up now? This is the weaponization of our government. And it's a shame to see it happening here in the United States.
Certain Washington politicians choose to fight for foreign countries, but President Trump will always fight for the American people.
Well, former President Donald Trump and 18 co-defendants now have 9 days to surrender to Georgia authorities. The Fulton County District Attorney set an August 25th deadline after handing down a sweeping criminal indictment this week. This is Trump's fourth indictment and his second just this month.
President Trump telling me, quote, "This is a continuation of the greatest and longest-running witch hunt in American history. I will make America great again." Now, late last night, Trump was indicted by Fulton County, Georgia DA Fani Willis alongside 18 others. That included his personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, his former White House chief of staff, Mark Meadows, and even Kanye West's former publicist.
In Georgia, Trump is charged with 13 counts, including racketeering. The indictment placing him atop a criminal organization that also includes 18 aides, attorneys and associates, and 30 unnamed co-conspirators, all accused in a plot to keep Trump in the White House despite his 2020 election loss.
Trump and the other 18 defendants have just 10 days to surrender. These charges could bring the former president decades of jail time and even a mugshot, which is different than his previous indictments.
Let me explain something about Georgia and all the rest of it. Every one of these damn phony indictments where they dust off these old laws or they take what is normal actions in the course of an election where you're lobbying state legislatures, where you're claiming elections are wrong, whether they're wrong or not. This is an attack on the people. Every indictment is an attack on our freedom, our ability to vote. The Democrats don't care about voting. They care about winning. At all costs.
All right, so now the former president is calling this election interference. What do you think?
I mean, no kidding. Wait 2.5 years and then wait until primary season to indict the man 1, 2, 3, 4 times at this point. I mean, to say that this is not politically motivated is a pretty far stretch, even for those that are more liberal or Democrat minded. I think it's pretty obvious what's going on here. This is bigger than just Donald Trump. When the government and the judicial system is weaponized against individuals, whether they be a former president or an average everyday American, that is haunting. That is scary, and that has huge implications for this democracy that the Democrats talk about day in and day out that they want to protect. So whether you like Trump or not, this matters, and this matters for every American.
This is one of the most outrageous examples of election interference we've ever seen in our country. And I want to know, is Fani Willis going to indict Stacey Abrams?
We had this little election back in 2018. We won. I believe was a stolen election. And I'm not saying they stole it from me. They stole it from the voters of Georgia.
For 5 years, she's continued to whine about the fact that the election was stolen from her. Well, if that's the case, put her in shackles, handcuff her, and indict her.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. And I say that publicly.
You know, it's not a crime to say that the election was stolen. Hillary Clinton did.
You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you.
Ah, my gosh.
In fact, in Georgia, so did Stacey Abrams. I think she still thinks she's governor, or at least claims that.
Was the election in Georgia statewide a free and fair election?
It was not a free and fair election.
Without voter suppression, Stacey Abrams would be the governor of Georgia.
If this country wasn't racist, Stacey Abrams would be governor.
Stacey Abrams ought to be the governor of Georgia.
If this country wasn't racist, Stacey Abrams would be governor.
We built a multiracial coalition. What we did not have was a fair and free election that allowed every single member of that coalition and others to cast free ballots.
Is it criminal to challenge the result, as Democrats have done in 3 prior elections? Of course, invalid votes were counted. You know, in the end, those challenges failed. How is that fraud? Well, I don't think it is.
And she's basically saying that these people engaged in a plan, knowing that they lost, to basically circumvent the will of the people. And there are specific acts that are being laid out in this indictment. Number one, that this call to the Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, in which Trump is asking for 11,780 votes, that was an attempt to basically corrupt an official in the state government.
Yeah, he's saying, you know, I need to find 11,000 some odd votes because that's his deficit. Right. Well, he's not asking the Secretary of State to do something illegal. He's grousing about how he thinks he won by a huge margin, but the deficit in the results shows, you know, roughly 11 to 12,000 votes shy of victory.
So the notion that they were using the fake electors was fraud.
How is that fraud?
So she's saying that there were a group of people led by Donald Trump, he's at the center of it, who engaged in a conspiracy, again, to subvert the will of the people.
This is a mess of a case. This will not hold up. This will not hold up under the law. If it is not reversed by the Georgia courts, it will be reversed by the Supreme Court of the United States. The question is when, whether it's before the presidential election on November 7th, 2024, or after. But this is a shotgun approach by a Democrat prosecutor who is campaigning on taking out President Trump through the legal process, through lawfare. She set up a website. She's raising money off of this. This is a joke of a complaint.
And one other point about Georgia, David, you know, Trump was really contesting 7 states, if you include New Mexico, that he lost to Joe Biden. But Georgia was the state that was closest of all of them. And it was a state in the deep South. It was the defeat that hurt Trump the most. More than any of these states, it was the state that he was obsessed with and obsessed with getting his defeat overturned.
Trump is complaining about a wide variety of election irregularities and, you know, ballot issues and so forth. And he's saying, I need to find 11,000 votes. He's not saying you go out and find illegally 11,000 votes. So, you know, this district attorney has chronically misrepresented a lot of the facts, mangled the law in order to bring, you know, racketeering seriously. I mean, that requires proof of an organized criminal enterprise coupled with a repeated pattern of systemic illegal behavior. Well, that doesn't apply here.
It says defendant Donald John Trump lost the United States presidential election held on November 3rd, 2020. One of the states he lost was Georgia. Trump and the other defendants charged in this indictment refused to accept that Trump lost, and they knowingly and willfully joined a conspiracy to unlawfully change the outcome of the election in favor of Trump. That conspiracy contained a common plan and purpose. That's key there. It contained a common plan and purpose shared by these people. That's the allegation here from Fani Willis, to commit 2 or more acts of racketeering activity in Fulton County, Georgia, elsewhere in the state of Georgia, and in other states here.
And look, as a former federal prosecutor and a public defender, probably the only person who's done both sides of the aisle, this is a hatchet job by the Fulton County DA. And I remind your audience that Fulton County is 90% inclusive of the town of Atlanta, which is an overwhelmingly majority district against Donald Trump.
Donald Trump has a tougher argument than the people who worked for him. The people who worked for him, I think, can say, look, he was my boss.
As this is throwing spaghetti on the wall, hoping something sticks. But this is ridiculous. And every time these happen, I think most of us who are already Trump supporters just dig in deeper and say, if they can get away with doing this to Donald Trump, they will attempt to do it to every Republican who is nominated. And they will probably be more successful with others than they are with Trump, because not everybody has the guts to fight back like he does.
Yeah, this indictment is loud, long, and lawless, and it is part of the Democrats' lawfare campaign in several different jurisdictions across America, several different Democrat hellholes across America, including D.C., New York, and Atlanta, to take out President Trump through the legal system because they fear they can't beat President Trump on November 7th, 2024. This is essentially, they're alleging a conspiracy of 19 people violating 41 different felonies for the non-crime of objecting to the presidential election, which is allowed by the Electoral Count Act of 1887, and twisting arms politically is allowed by the First Amendment. I hope President Trump moves forward immediately with a motion to dismiss this lawless indictment. He has presidential immunity if he's acting within his presidential powers, or if he's acting within his private capacity, he has the First Amendment defense.
But I do think the rule of law, holding people accountable, is central to our nation.
Really nice to hear a brazen criminal like Hillary Clinton talk about fairness and the judicial system working. It's nice when you have it on your side, isn't it, Hillary Clinton? I think Donald Trump famously said, if it was working, you'd be in jail. So I'll leave it at that.
Donald Trump has said repeatedly he won the presidential election. He believes that firmly. In 2001, 5, and 17, when Hillary Clinton, Senator Barbara Boxer, Hakeem Jeffries, and Speaker Pelosi declared those elections unlawful and the outcome of those elections not the appropriate result, none of those people were prosecuted in state or federal court. So you're seeing a two-tier system of justice here play out in this 98-page indictment.
Yeah. This is, you know, we kind of make fun of it, but truthfully, Eric, this is dangerous stuff. When our political system is no longer about people voting, but it's about elected officials prosecuting the people they don't like. And in the case of some of these federal indictments, this is Joe Biden's Justice Department going after his opponent in the 2024 election. That really is disturbing.